It started like any other night. I locked the doors, checked the windows, and turned off the lights before settling in for what I thought would be an ordinary evening. But, as I reclined on the couch, flipping through channels, a familiar sound broke the quiet, a soft, distant whistling. At first, I thought it was just the wind slipping through the cracks of the old house. But then the whistling grew closer. Distinct. It wasn't random. There was a pattern to it, to high notes, a low note, and a playful trill at the end. Da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. I froze, feeling the fine hairs on my neck rise. I hadn't heard that tune in years. It had been my sister's favorite before she disappeared.
I bolted upright, straining to hear it again. The whistling was faint but unmistakable, drifting through the stillness of the night. My pulse quickened, memories surging back like an unrelenting tide. My sister Lena was only 10 when she vanished. It was a cool summer evening, and we'd been playing hide and seek in the yard. She'd hidden too well that night, so well we never found her. The authorities combed the woods, dredged the pond, and questioned every neighbor, but Lena was just gone. And that whistling? It had been our signal, her way of calling me when the game dragged on too long. "If you can't find me, just follow the tune," she'd say, grinning. I hadn't heard that melody since the night she disappeared. Until now, gripping the edge of the couch, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe a neighbor's kid was outside playing. Maybe it was just my imagination. But deep down, I knew better. That tune was too precise, too familiar. The whistling came again, closer now. My heart thudded against my ribs as I stood and moved cautiously to the window. The blinds were closed, but I didn't dare peek outside. Every instinct screamed at me to stay hidden. And then I heard it, a voice, faint and sing-song, carried on the night air. "Come find me."
The voice was soft but unmistakable, and it froze me in place. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My stomach twisted as I whispered, "Lena," into the quiet room, my voice trembling. The whistling resumed, moving closer, its lilting notes weaving through the silence. I glanced at the front door, ensuring it was locked. Then back at the window. My hands shook as I reached for my phone, fumbling to unlock it. Should I call the police? But what would I say? That the ghost of my long-lost sister was whistling outside my house. Another voice, deeper and sharper, broke my thoughts. "Come outside." It rasped. Just below the window, I stumbled back, dropping the phone. The voice wasn't Lena's. It was harsh, alien, and wrong, like something imitating human speech but missing the mark entirely. The whistling stopped abruptly, leaving the house cloaked in eerie silence. I tried to steady my breathing, but the floorboards creaked behind me. My blood turned to ice as I realized the sound wasn't coming from outside anymore. Whatever it was, it had gotten in.
I turned slowly, every muscle in my body taut, every nerve screaming for me to run. The house was quiet, but the air felt different. Heavy, electric, like the moment before a storm. The living room stretched into shadow, the faint glow of the street lights outside barely cutting through the darkness. I reached for the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a fireplace poker resting against the hearth, and gripped it tightly, my knuckles white. "Lena!" I called out, my voice barely audible. Nothing, but then I heard it again. That tune, the whistling, was now coming from somewhere deeper in the house. It echoed faintly, as if whoever, or whatever, it was wanted me to follow. The melody was slower now, almost mournful. Every fiber of logic told me to run, to get out of the house and call for help. But something stronger, a deep, primal need to understand, to know, rooted me in place. It had been 10 years since Lena disappeared. If there was even a sliver of a chance this was her, I stepped cautiously into the hallway, the poker trembling in my hand. The whistling grew louder as I approached Lena's old bedroom. The door was ajar, swaying slightly as if moved by an unseen breeze. I pushed it open, my breath hitching. The room was just as we'd left it, a shrine to her childhood. Posters of unicorns and pop stars peeled from the walls. Her unmade bed still bore the imprint of her small frame, as if she'd just risen from it moments ago. And then I saw it. A shadow, small and slight, standing in the far corner. It turned slowly, stepping into the dim light. It was Lena, or at least it looked like her. "Found me," she whispered, her voice a haunting echo of the girl I remembered. My knees nearly buckled as I stared at her. It was Lena, but not the Lena I'd last seen. Her face was pale and gaunt, her eyes sunken and dull, like the color had been leached from her entirely. She was still wearing the clothes she'd had on the night she disappeared, a blue dress with daisies, but they were faded, frayed, and clung to her unnaturally thin frame. "I waited for you," she said, her voice tinged with sadness. The words crawled into my ears, cold and wrong, like static behind her speech. "Lena." My voice cracked and I took a tentative step forward. "What happened to you? Where have you been?" Her expression didn't change, her lips curling into an eerie, too perfect smile. "I was playing, just like we used to, but you didn't come find me." Tears welled in my eyes. "We looked everywhere. The whole neighborhood, the woods. We never stopped looking for you." She tilted her head, the motion unnervingly slow, like a puppet being pulled on strings. "But you didn't look where I was. You didn't hear me calling." Her words sent a chill through me. What did she mean? I'd combed every inch of those woods, shouted her name until my voice gave out. "Where were you?" I asked, gripping the poker tighter, the room suddenly feeling far too small. Her smile widened, splitting her face in a way that shouldn't have been possible. "Somewhere else." Before I could process her answer, her form flickered, as if the air around her shimmered with heat. Her eyes, once dim, suddenly burned bright, 2 pinpricks of blinding white light. "Do you want to see where I've been?" she whispered, her voice no longer Lena's. It was layered, deeper, ancient. The temperature in the room plummeted, my breath fogging as I stumbled backward. "Lena, stop! What's happening to you?" The thing wearing my sister's face took a step forward, the floor creaking ominously beneath her bare feet. "Come with me," it crooned, reaching out a hand. Its fingers were impossibly long, clawed, and trembling. I backed away toward the door, my heart hammering in my chest. "You're not her. You're not Lena." The thing let out a sound, a laugh, a scream. It was both and neither, a horrible cacophony that made my ears ring. And then, with a speed that defied reason, it lunged.